Welcome and thank you for joining us today for Making Job Scheduling Simple and Affordable webinar. My name is Raleigh Gould and I will be your moderator for today's event. Our featured speakers are Torsten Volk, Research Director at Enterprise Management Associates, and Pat Cameron, Director at Skybot. Torsten has over 10 years managing highly complex IT projects within the virtualization, cloud, and custom software application development realm. His previous work has consisted of helping national and international organizations like the World Bank and Cricket Communications. With over 25 years in the IT industry, Pat's experience includes implementation, planning, operations, and management. At Skybot, Pat oversees customer relationships, gives technical product demonstrations for potential customers, and fields customer enhancement requests for the development team. And before I hand things over to our featured speakers, I did want today's audience to know that Torsten and Pat will be answering your questions at the conclusion of their presentations. So I do encourage you to log those questions at any time throughout the course of the presentation using the Q&A functionality. You should see that in the right-hand column of your screen, or if you're in full slide view, simply look for the floating toolbar. You'll see a question mark icon. Click on that, and you can log your questions that way. Also, today's event is being recorded, and you will be receiving a follow-up email from Enterprise Management Associates tomorrow with the on-demand playback and a PDF of the speaker slides, so be on the lookout for that. And now I'd like to go ahead and turn things over to our first featured speaker, Torsten Volk. Torsten?
Good afternoon. Thanks, Raleigh. And welcome, everybody, to today's presentation. I promise we will make this really fun and really interactive. And I want to jump right in with a couple of introductory remarks, and I want to tell you why there's a gigantic octopus on the opening slide, of course. So based on our research, agility, resiliency, operational expense savings are the key IT challenges today. We have more and more infrastructure, more operating systems, more applications, more of everything deployed in the data center. And another phenomenon that we have today is business people, business units getting really involved and really engaged in IT projects. And this leads to higher demands for job scheduling because job scheduling connects everything with everything else. And that was really why I really like that picture of this big animal there. Job scheduling is a little bit like that, as we all know. It makes sure that applications are connected, data is placed to the right location at the right point in time, so that our business people can have what they need to be better than their competition. So the 7 lessons today are presented in the form of demonstrations, and those demonstrations will show the individual problems that we see our customers come across in job scheduling all the time. And we will keep this a dialogue, as promised, between Pat and I will basically do the simple part and ask the questions and tell you all a little bit about our research results. And Pat will deliver the demos where she will show you how these problems are actually resolved. And we'll talk briefly about this entire paradigm shift that is currently going on, where the IT department is being turned into an enabler for business. And IT is a much more proactive discipline today than it was only a few years ago. And workload automation has a business impact, a tremendous business impact if done right. And if not done right, it just remains a cost center where a lot of phone calls, that receives a lot of phone calls from people who are upset about things not working the way they should. So without job scheduling, cloud, big data, and DevOps would not yield the desired ROI. And the problem often is that scheduling is an afterthought. So the business unit and somebody from the applications people, they decide what's going to get implemented, what kind of application gets implemented. But at the end of the day, the job scheduling requirements that this application brings with it are often ignored until the last second. So this is a really interesting chart, I think, that we received when we did our cloud research project back in February, where it clearly shows that over 2/3 of enterprises that have implemented the cloud solution did not get the expected ROI because automation wasn't in place the way it should have. So this whole concept of cloud, of DevOps, of big data is absolutely a great thing, and it is there to give your business a competitive edge. But at the end of the day, workload automation and automation in general is essential to get the business services created. And it's all about enabling business stakeholders with those services. So workload ties everything together that we have in the data center, and it really spans about generations of hardware. You see at the bottom here, we have mainframes. We have in the middle the distributed compute systems. There's a modern mainframe to the left. There's a Cisco UCS system in the middle. So we have all those types of systems and software, and nothing ever goes away in the data center. It just piles up on top of each other. And at the end of the day, what we need to do is use job scheduling to create a coherent and consistent business service. And because business units are getting more and more involved in IT projects, and they're often the initiators, and in many cases the decision makers for this project, these projects are by definition a lot more mission critical, and SLAs that are attached to those projects are a lot more tight. And we often have to do with regulatory compliance requirements just to make sure that the organization is not going to lose a lot of money by violating HIPAA or SOX or any of the other requirements that we need to follow today. So we need to start somewhere when we simplify job scheduling. And where we can start and where we should start is really eliminating this mess that we often have in our data center that was created by scripts. And Pat, as a first lesson, will show how, with the help of Skybot Scheduler, scripts can be consolidated and can basically be pulled together and managed centrally so that you can really much better align them with your business requirements. Pat.
All right, thanks, Torsten. So let's take a look at how we can simplify our schedule. Oh, hold on. Oh, sorry about that. So we can simplify the schedule by eliminating all of that scripting that you're doing now and consolidating those scripts. So what we can do in Skybot Scheduler is if you've got scripts that are running in cron, the job scheduler, what we can do is we can import those into Skybot, and then you can have a good easy restart point if you need to. You can eliminate some of those complicated scripts. So what I'm going to do is we've got a command that you can run. So I'm logged into one of my UNIX agents, and I'm going to run my Skybot import command. And I've got a cron tab set up. Sorry, I can't type and talk. So what we do is we run this import command over the cron tab file, and Skybot goes out and it takes a look, and what it does is it takes that cron tab file and it imports into the Skybot import center. Takes a second. It looks like our import is completed. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to go into the import center now. So what we've done is we've taken that file and we've copied it over to the agent. So here's the name of the file. If I right-click on it, from here, we can just import all those individual cron tab entries into Skybot as individual jobs. I'm going to change this. We can also import them on hold, so it's not like you have to turn a switch and all of a sudden start running your jobs in Skybot instead of in cron. We can do it in steps, maybe dependent on application or however you want to bring them in. I can select all of these. Now I'm just doing a bunch of echo commands. You might have some very complicated scripts that you want to break down into smaller pieces. But I'm just going to select a couple of these. And I'll add an agent an environment to run these under. So I'll just run these jobs under my profile. And go ahead and click import. And what Skybot does is it goes out and it reads all of those entries in that cron tab file, and it creates jobs in the Skybot job scheduler. So we can take a look at how these jobs will be scheduled then. So here we've got 3 individual jobs. And if we open one of them, in the description, we put the description of from the cron tab entry. And we can just run these. We can leave this as a cron expression. So this job's still going to run every day at 1500. But what we can do with Skybot is we can change this to a day of week type schedule. Maybe this is a month end type of a schedule. If I want to run this on the last day of the month, I can set it up that way. So I can change the schedule. I can have multiple schedules in the Skybot scheduler. And then what we do down here too is we bring in those commands. This one is a comment. We want to make sure that you're aware of that is. And then this is the command that's going to run. Now from here I could add additional commands or other options that we have we're going to take a look at later. So it helps you to simplify your schedule and have more control over when those jobs are running. Also auditing, etc. So questions, Torsten?
Yeah, no, thanks. And I think that really shows how this is all under the heading of simplification. And I think everybody can see how much simpler scripts can be handled in this context compared to handling them where they are and by all types of different people. So can you, okay, thank you. That's what I just, yeah, and beyond scripts, there is this growing number of schedulers that's turning up with, almost every project that we are creating in our data center. We have schedulers for different operating systems, for applications, for the mainframe, custom schedulers that we build together with custom software application. And in order for IT to really provide a competitive advantage to the entire business, in the form of agility, resiliency, and OpEx savings, we need to consolidate all of those different schedulers. And you can see the EMA maturity pyramid here for workload automation. And what we need to do is we need to get to a state where we have dynamic automation at the top left and resource optimization at the top right, so that we can rapidly create new business services, we can build the jobs that are needed for those business services, and we can do that in a cost-effective manner. So the first step is really to consolidate these schedulers. And this also, workload engineers in general are basically stuck with tools that they've known and that help them address problems of a certain complexity. And the complexity is really represented by this small Rubik's Cube here to the left. But because of those requirement changes that we are having today, the actual complexity is much more like this Rubik's Cube to the right. So we really need simpler tools that can be much, much better aligned with the business. And every individual job that I'm running, I have to know right away which SLA this job impacts. So simplification and transparency of job scheduling is absolute key. So I'm just going to show the individual bullets there that I was talking about. And workload automation really needs to tie all of the individual elements together. And Pat will show how this is done and how Skybot can help consolidate performance, availability, and transparency for audits and for generally much more alignment of workload automation with the business. Pat.
Right. So like Torsten said, a lot of the applications that you have, a lot of the business applications that you buy come with their own scheduler. And that allows you to schedule those SAP jobs or Informatica or any other application that you have. But then you don't have the control and you don't have the big picture. So what we've got here in Skybot, this is a job stream that I've got that will run jobs on different servers through different applications that are all related to one another. So one of the common processes that people have is an order. So I have an order that gets placed on my website. Now what is that going to trigger? So first of all, it will trigger a job that will process that order, and it might be in one application or more. We can take a look at what we're doing behind the scenes in this job. So in here we're doing 3 different steps. We're pulling that file with FTP, and we're using a variable for that file name. As soon as that completes, I'm going to run a stored procedure over on my SQL Server. And then when that completes, I've got a BAT file that I'm going to run. So this is just showing you that you can have a mix of different types of applications within one job or within one job stream. So this job stream's got a couple different triggers on it. As soon as this order completes, then I want to send it to the distribution center, get that order out right away. On the other side of this tree, I've got some steps that I might not want to run right away. I'm going to update the order, and then I'm going to run some updates in SAP. Now these might not run until the end of the day, and so I can, if I take a look here, we've got a couple of steps that interface with your SAP installation, and we'll run those SAP jobs within Skybot as well. And then when they complete my data warehouse, I might have to build something, and so I'm running this Informatica workflow. For those of you that have some of those BI tools, we can go ahead and do that as the last step. And so if I look at this command line, it's running a workflow within Informatica as soon as that's complete. So what you have with a good workload automation tool is that consolidation that Torsten mentioned. You've got auditing and security. I can take a look in history and I can watch this job run. If I look at the history, here's that job stream that ran. And I ran it earlier today, and as you can see here, it failed. And so I was able to go in and fix the problem. And then if you see here, we also will track who exactly restarted this job and at what command that they started at. So we keep all of that information in our files, and you can report on all of that information as well. This was the time that the job ran, the duration for each of the steps in that process. So instead of putting all of these steps in one script, if you even can, if you divide them out or if you create dependent jobs, then you have a good restart point if there is a failure. So auditors typically will like this history because, again, you can see failures and you can see who fixed the problem. The other piece that auditing loves is the fact that we audit all the changes that are made to the database. So if you look here at the audit, notice that all of these cron jobs that I created, we track the fact that they were created, who did it, what was the name of the job, even right down to the field level, exactly what fields were created. So we track all of that audit information, and then you can report on it. So we have a number of different reports, the audit history report, the job history report, and you can schedule those reports and then have them emailed to your auditors weekly, monthly, however often that they need to receive those reports.
Thanks, Pat. And it's really all about making workload automation, job scheduling, if you will, simple and aligning it with the business. And I think what Pat was just showing is how pulling all of these scripts and those jobs into a central scheduling solution makes it much, much easier to do this.
Exactly. It gives you the big picture.
Yeah. And Pat was also talking about the auditability. And for everyone who has been audited and who has had to contribute to an audit will definitely appreciate the simplicity that a solution like Skybot will bring to the table in this context. So the more we simplify job scheduling, the better we can really manage the critical path, and the more we can be in alignment with SLA requirements. And we have constantly new applications introduced, and the engineers are just often stuck with the existing tools and the existing scripts that they have, and things are all over the place, and it's very difficult to manage along the lines of compliance and SLAs and performance requirements if you do not have the bigger picture, as Pat just mentioned. So when something goes wrong and I have to do a root cause analysis on a Saturday night or even on a Tuesday afternoon, what I want to do first is address the problem that is the most critical for my business people so that they can keep working, because that's what I'm there for in IT. So Pat will demonstrate in that regard how centralizing job workflow control leads to an environment that can be managed a lot easier from a workflow perspective, as well as from a user management and security perspective. I have a slide for that. So, Pat.
All right, let's take a look at a couple of things then. First of all, we can talk a little bit about user management. So one of the options that we have within Skybot in our administration is the ability to create different roles for users and give them different authority to jobs. So for an example, this is my help desk role. And we integrate with your LDAP, your Active Directory server. So you can create a group over on your LDAP server, and then when the user logs in, they'll log in to the correct role here in Skybot, because you map those groups. And so this help desk group has view authority to history, et cetera, a lot of the reporting, but they're excluded from that import center. They're excluded from the users and roles, so they can't create their own. And then also over here, they have access to all of the reports, but they're excluded again from creating any of the objects that are needed in order to create jobs and job flows. And then even down to the individual job level, they've got change authority for a couple of jobs. Overall, they have view authority to all jobs, and then they're also excluded from some. So you can be very specific in who has access to what type of access that they have to the job. So you can control who can view the jobs and then who can actually make changes. And we've recently added a security report that you can, again, you can schedule and have emailed to your auditors periodically or whenever there are changes, so that it's easy to get that information. Because like Torsten said, we wanted to keep in mind things like HIPAA and PCI and make sure that our customers were in compliance. Also, you want to be able to manage those workflows. So one way to do that is with your workflow diagram, so you can see where your dependencies are. Another way is with our schedule activity monitor. So this is a live view. This is the time that it is right now here in Central Time. And this line moves across throughout the day. It updates every 5 minutes. And so it's very easy for someone in the operations area or the help desk to see anything over on the left side of this line. That's a bad thing, that a job was scheduled or forecasted to run at a certain time, and for some reason that forecast was missed. Now sometimes you can see here that this agent is held or it's failed, and so that's why the forecast was missed. Other times you can't see from there, but you can, typically the reason is that there was a prerequisite for that job and that prerequisite wasn't met. And so here I can say I'm waiting for an AIX job to run, and it has not yet. So that's why that job is still waiting. Also, we can see here jobs that are active. And so what you're looking at here, these are the names of the jobs in the left-hand column, and then these are the names of the different agents. So I'm looking at the big picture. I'm looking at the jobs running across all of the servers in my Skybot network. Now we track history. And so we know when these jobs are expected to complete. So that's what this graph is showing as well. And then down here I've got jobs that have recently completed, and I can see the failures And you can customize the screen as to what exactly it is that you want to see on this schedule activity monitor. And from here, if I did have a failure, I can right-click. I could go in and edit the job if I had access to it. I could download the log, and then I could also restart the job from here. So it's one place that you can go to manage your jobs and manage those job schedules as they're running right now. The other thing that customers want to be able to do is you've got to be able to plan for the future. So maybe you need to schedule some downtime or some maintenance on one of your servers. So I need to be able to forecast out further than just today. So in this example, I've got a 5-day forecast that starts tomorrow. And I'm going to start at midnight, and I'm going to go out for 5 days. Now, if you were scheduling some maintenance over probably Memorial Day, that's when IT people are usually working. If you have a long weekend, you could certainly pick the dates that you want to see the schedule for. I'm going to leave this for tomorrow, and then I'm going to take a look and show you what comes up on that forecast. So from here, I can see, so tomorrow is Friday, and it's at midnight. So again, we've got the same list over on the left. These are all the jobs that are running. These are all the agents that they're running on, and then this little graph shows the time that those jobs start, and based on history, again, the time that they end. If you do have dependencies across your different jobs and across servers, that reactivity will show up here as well. So I can see here that I've got jobs that are related. So if I did take one of these servers out of commission for a day or so, I would see what else would be affected by that. Also, it's a good place to come to see where I've got some holes in my schedule, maybe, so that I could schedule something and not affect other jobs, and also use my resources really well. So forecasting helps you manage downtime, manage your servers, auditing, and security. Gives you kind of ease of use of those users of your system.
Thank you, Pat. And this really goes in line with IT being an enabler for the business, and IT getting away from its traditional role as a cost center. Proactive management is key, and to manage your workload proactively, you need to have what Pat just showed. You need to see the critical path visually. You need to see when something gets a little bit too close for comfort to a deadline, so that you get runway to react. Scheduling jobs are part of almost all business services. Scheduling jobs are part of cloud projects, of DevOps projects, of almost all of today's business critical projects. And latency, failures, any kind of security issues, all of those things can negatively affect the entire business. So simplifying workload, eliminating scripts, consolidating schedulers, and creating the central dashboard that can be used for workload engineers and operators to be better on top of things is absolutely critical in enterprise IT today. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making IT more transparent for the business and to overcome this traditional divide that you can see here between the business and IT. Because excuses really do not count anymore. So I have a lot of complexity. I have all of those applications that you can see, and a lot of them are very much siloed. And it is the job of workload automation, of job scheduling, to tie together those individual parts, those individual applications, infrastructure, operating systems, and glue everything nicely together into a business service. And this is extremely difficult to achieve if I have a lot of individual scripts and schedulers and moving parts. Aligning all of those, if they're not centrally managed, to an SLA and to a compliance requirement set is extremely difficult. I need reliability, predictability, and agility. And yeah, as a business user, I want to see my stuff being done in time, and I really do not care at all why a certain thing is late and why my executive dashboard today is not updated properly and doesn't let me make the decisions that I want to make based on the data that is expected to be there. You know, I don't want to hear excuses about a certain file not being transferred, a certain job being late. At the end of the day, it's all about being faster than the competition. And it's an exciting thing because today workload automation or job scheduling helps the enterprise to be better than the competition, to be faster than the competition. It really is going away from a cost center into a proactive IT discipline that makes the data center of my company better than potentially the data center of another company that is not that far along in the evolution process. And one interesting piece there is file transfer. It's almost, I would say, an ancient discipline, but it's been an ongoing pain point over the years, I almost said over the decades. And individual jobs today more than ever need a lot of data. They need a lot of files to be moved into the right places so that they can be analyzed and turned into business relevant information to make decisions on, or to be delivered to customers at a specific point in time. And if that doesn't work out the way it's planned, if those files are all over the place, if they're not updated the way they should, then I have a huge problem. And, you know, going back to the previous slide, the business stakeholders will not care that this problem is because some transfer failed because of a really good reason that you may be able to give them. It's all about, you know, knowing what's going on in your file transfer and tying this very closely to your workload automation workflows. And Pat, can you show how this is handled within Skybot? And can you also show how you help customers prevent SLA issues from happening that are due to problems in file transfer, but also other kind of problems? Because as I said, it's all about giving people enough runway so that they can fix things before they become actual business critical issues.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at a couple of things. Just as you said, Torsten, I think what we found with a lot of our customers these days is that the trigger for many of these job streams that are running is not another job or not the time of day, but it's a file, or a file either getting created or a file changing. And as soon as that happens, I want to be able to start this job stream to process that file, whatever it may be. I've got a number of different examples. But so what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to watch for that file or that event. So what we've got in Skybot is what we call event monitors. And these monitors are set up outside of your job stream, and they're kind of watchers. We can watch for files to be created or be received from an FTP process. We can watch for directories to change. And we can also watch for other processes to start and end. So if you've got services or database that needs to be up on one of your servers, we can watch that as well and then let you know as soon as there might be a problem with it. So in this example, I've got an event called order. And I'm doing a couple things with it. One is as soon as this order comes in, I've got some notification options that I can use. I can send an SNMP trap up to a network monitor, an enterprise monitor if I need to do that. I can also send an email to an individual or to a list of people. If somebody needs to know, maybe the sales rep needs to know about that file as soon as that order comes in, so we can let them know immediately. So we're just going to sit out there and watch for this file, and I've got a couple different options here. So I'm looking for a new file that comes in. Every time a file that starts with SALE comes into my CC Files directory, I want to trigger this event. Now, I never know what the name of that file is because it might have the date appended to it, or it could have the date and time, but it has something. The only unique thing about this file is they all start with sale. So I can use a wildcard while I'm watching for this file, and then I'll show you how we use that in the next step of the process. So other types of events, file events that we can watch for, files to be removed or files to change. So if you've got a process that updates an existing file or overwrites it, we can watch for that date and time stamp, or we can watch for a record increase or decrease. And we can also watch for a threshold to be met. So a lot of our customers will use these thresholds to manage their log files or any files that tend to grow. As soon as they get to be a certain size, then I can trigger a process to archive that and purge those files. So lots of good uses for these events. So this one is a file add. So what we're going to do is set that watcher up. It goes out and it watches for that file. We keep history on that event as well. So here's what it looks like every time that file gets created. Got created this morning at 7. When that event is triggered, we capture the whole file name as event data, including the path and the file name. And here you can see it's got today's date in month-a-year format. So we take this event data and we store it as a variable, and we can pass it to the next step in the process. So I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but if we go and take a look at the command line in this order entry job, what we've done is we're doing an FTP. So we have a built-in FTP function, so you don't have to do scripting for file transfers. You can define all of your FTP servers to Skybot, and we support secure FTP as well as just regular FTP. You can push or pull files from the FTP server. Could be remote. It could be anywhere as long as we can get to the IP address or the system name, and we have a valid logon to be able to pull those files. So it can be inside of your network or out. And then we can take that file name. So we just received a file. Now we're going to take that file. And this is the remote name, and this is the variable. It's always Skybot, and then underscore the name of the event, and then data. And we're going to pull that file down to another server. And so again, I don't have to know the file name. I can use the variable that was created. And our built-in file transfer here, if we take a look at FTP servers or FTP systems, we've got a number of them out there. If we take a look at this core server, here's where you define the FTP server. And again, we just need to know the remote name, the type of FTP, and then you'll be able to pull that FTP server in from a drop-down list when you want to run your file transfers. And then as soon as that completes, we've got some options that we can do here too. So I'm running 3 different commands in this job. If I get a failure or I get some type of an error, a couple things that I've got an option. I can let somebody know right away and just fail the job. I can do a couple retries. So if for some reason you've got an FTP that's pulling files from a remote server, if the file's not there yet, you can give it a retry, and you can set a time limit for how many times you want to retry and the seconds in between before you fail that job. So sometimes when you're working with these remote servers, we've had customers that run into issues like that. So you've got some options here. If the job does fail, or if this command fails, then it won't go on to the next step. I'll show you where we can set up notifications so we can let someone know right away. And then you can go in and restart the job at any one of these steps that's in the job. So the notification that we have, when we talk about service level agreements, it's more than just a job failing. We want to know maybe a couple of different things. If there's some type of a delay, we need to know that before it starts to affect our SLA. So we can monitor jobs for maximum duration. So in this case, if this job runs longer than 15 minutes, I know it's a problem because this job usually runs 5. Or if I've got an SLA and this job's got to be completed by 7, I can send an email to a list of people. I can send a trap again. And in this instance, I could actually end that job if that was an option. So we can monitor for those types of overruns, underruns. Sometimes if a job runs less than a minute, that's a bad thing as well, and a late start. So if I do have a prerequisite and I'm waiting for another job or I'm waiting for something to complete, but I want to make sure that this job starts by a certain time, then I can set a late start monitor on here as well. And again, we always have the same type of options for notification. I can send to a list of people or I can send to individuals. So we can monitor for those types of delays to make sure that you meet all your SLAs. And then we also can send out a status notification on a failure or any of the statuses that a job gets. So we submit the jobs to a queue. Sometimes you may set some conditions that would cause a job to skip. And so if you want to be notified on that, you can. Completion, this is a successful completion, and then this would be a failure. And again, always have the same type of options. Typically, people only want to be notified of failures. But you will be notified immediately as soon as that job fails. So you're not going to be surprised when you come in the morning. And you're going to be notified of those delays right away so that you don't miss any of your SLAs. All right, anything else?
No, thank you, Pat. This shows really well how one of the findings in our research needs to be addressed, and that is SLA management. At the end of the day, we need to, in workload automation, in job scheduling, we need to get to a point where we have a dashboard, you can see this here, that shows us at one glance the health of everything that's related with job scheduling. And every single scheduling job has a specific business impact. It might not be a catastrophic event if a specific job fails, but I don't necessarily know that unless I know for every single job what the consequences are to my SLA if the job is late or fails entirely. So what I do not need in my data center is a lot of product-specific scheduling solutions and the scripts that I've been writing over the years, even though they work fantastic by themselves. What I need is something to tie this all together, because at the end of the day, it's all about the business service. And you can see this box at the bottom that was actually used to demonstrate what cloud management really is, but it can also be used just as well to demonstrate how important job scheduling is for cloud and for business service management as a whole. Because at the end of the day, what I have in my data center are all different types of storage, network, compute, hypervisors. I use Amazon public cloud for a lot of applications, and I have different kinds of operating systems, different kinds of business applications sitting on those operating systems. And all of these things together make up that green layer at the top, the business service. And that, at the end of the day, is what makes my business better than somebody else's business. And all of our research shows recently that business services created by the IT department together with the business units, the individual business units, in collaboration. This is what makes the organization faster, more agile, more scalable, and simply able to better serve customers compared to the competition. And Pat, what I would like to do is to give you the chance to very briefly sum up how Skybot can help customers in this context, how Skybot can basically simplify and consolidate and workloads and jobs and tie them better to the business so that at the end of the day, the individual business units are more competitive in the marketplace. Pat?
Sure, exactly. I think so what I did online was I created this exact job stream with the order being placed and then triggering a number of different options. And so, like Torsten said, you want to be able to manage those job streams by the business service, not by individual applications or not by individual operating systems or servers. You want to be able to support it and manage it for the business service, because he's exactly right. They don't care why it failed. They don't care in what area there was a failure or a delay. They want to see that that entire job stream and the output of it complete normally and on time. And so what we've heard from our customers is that what they get from Skybot Scheduler is the visibility of the schedules and the ability to audit those schedules and control what it is that they're running. You're also able to centrally monitor with the job monitors and also the notification. We don't want you to have to go in and watch those job streams run. You need to be assured that they're going to run on time, and if there is a problem, that we're going to notify you and let you know that there's a problem or there's a delay, so that you can take care of it before you miss that SLA. We certainly don't want you to do that. So we have a number of different ways that you can create jobs and tie them together and monitor them, and that's what our customers like. It's the big picture and the ability to audit and manage from one place.
And it's also a very lightweight tool compared to a lot of the other offerings in the marketplace.
It is a very lightweight tool. We didn't port any of the code over from any legacy schedulers or acquire any other schedulers. We wrote Skybot Scheduler, and we've got 30 years of scheduling experience, so we took all the good stuff and put it into Skybot. So it's light and it's reasonably priced.
And yeah, what we like at EMA about Skybot is exactly this. It is, without investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, a quick and easy and pragmatic way of cleaning up a significant mess in the data center. It's very easy to pull in cron jobs, as Pat showed. It's easy to run SAP jobs, SQL jobs, lots of different application jobs, and just centrally manage them. There is a lot of high-end features that other tools may have that are not present in Skybot, but the interesting thing and the interesting value proposition about the software is that you basically get 80% of the functionality at 20% of the cost, the 80-20 proposition. And that's where we at EMA see Skybot's core strength. And at the end of the day, it's all about managing the SLA. And you can see that in the middle of this chart. Everything around service level management has to be centrally managed so that the individual business units get what they need to do their job and to do their job better than the competition. And it's a very new notion, and I see this all the time when we talk to workload operators or to engineers in that sector. You see that all the time that they regard themselves as cost center, as people who solve problems reactively, and SLAs are always hanging over their heads, and it's a big, dangerous scenario, and they get brought in very last when a business service or a business application is deployed. They're the last to know, and they just have to then scramble and quickly get everything in place that needs to be in place so that the new SAP ERP works properly, for example, or the new e-commerce application works properly. So at this point in time, we are really at a stage where we are changing this game and acknowledging that job scheduling has actually a lot of business impact. And to make sure we handle all this right, and to make sure that the business at the same time feels confident with what's going on, we need to simplify and we need to reduce complexity, give business units basically insights into what is going on, and in the ideal case, let them influence what's going on. Let them tell us what they need at the beginning of the project instead of doing that last second. So job scheduling is really turning into a proactive discipline. And those are my closing remarks. And with that, I see we have a lot of questions. I'd like to open this up and make sure that we answer everybody's questions. Raleigh.
Great, thank you, Torsten. Before we jump into the Q&A, I did want to point out some additional resources, especially the Skybot Enterprise Job Scheduling papers. I will be sending out that URL in the follow-up email tomorrow, but that is really a great resource if you're interested in this topic. So let's go ahead and jump right into the questions, starting with you, Torsten. Where do you see the main impact of big data projects on workload automation?
The impact of big data is that now almost everything that's going on in IT is a data source. Everything we do, every time a user touches a system, is a data source. So the more of those data sources we tie together and analyze, the more actionable knowledge we can get. And job scheduling is now faced with that great challenge of being responsible for pulling together that information and getting it into the right places and feeding the right applications. And then when the output is ready, taking that information and putting it somewhere else, for example, in the data warehouse. So it's really the glue that keeps big data together and that makes big data work. And it needs to be, as I said, it needs to be simplified and it needs to be used right, because big data puts a whole bunch of, hundreds and thousands of additional jobs onto the job scheduling department, and it adds to the complexity, and that's what this whole first part of our conversation today was about, the complexity that is added by cloud and big data and DevOps. And big data certainly adds a lot of complexity, a lot more jobs that have to be scheduled, files that have to be moved, and we need that transparency that Pat was demonstrating, for example, in Skybot Scheduler.
Great, thank you, Torsten. Now let's jump over to you, Pat. This attendee wants to know, how can my developers benefit from adopting a solution like Skybot?
Well, typically what we've seen is that developers they don't have to write those big complicated scripts, that you can take individual commands or executables and run them as a Skybot job. So it cuts down on the amount of development time that you need. They can make their scripts more streamlined. And they don't have to script for dependencies and reactivity. We can do that with the scheduler so that their scripts can be simpler. And then they don't have to worry about having some type of a restart point within the scripting. It would be within the Skybot job. So less time, make it simpler, and quicker typically to get it up and implemented.
Great, thank you, Pat. And here's a quick question. An audience member would like to know, is Skybot on-premise or cloud-based?
It is on-premise. It is not cloud-based.
Okay, thank you. Now here's an interesting question, and I think this is a good one, Pat and Torsten, for you both to provide some feedback. This individual would like to know, what are the easy value propositions to make to clients to be able to sell job scheduling work? Some good angles that you know of.
Who wants to go? This is Pat. Job scheduling and automation will always give you less errors. To me, that's one of the big advantages of having automation in place. And then also the ability to be notified of problems immediately, part of the notification piece. And then also what we see is that customers' job streams the time that it takes will compress because you can build those dependencies one after another. So those are some of the things that I see that our customers see advantages with Skybot.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's two types of job scheduling going on today. We see two target audiences for job scheduling. One is the ones that really rely on scripts, and they have, a SharePoint scheduler for SharePoint, they have an Oracle scheduler, they have an SAP scheduler, and they don't really have a central way of tying everything together. And the first step for those people, the big value proposition for those people of centralized job scheduling is what Pat showed in the beginning, everything tied together into a central workflow. Because at the end of the day, the business cares about a workflow. The business doesn't care that this is part from Oracle, this is part from SharePoint, this is part from SQL Server directly. That all doesn't matter. Job scheduling has to have one nice flow and easy to understand flow that ties all of the individual bits and pieces in IT together and makes sure that the business receives what the business needs. And then a bonus point is exactly what Pat mentioned, give people as much runway as possible before something fails. And you can only do that if you centralize and if you make it transparent and easy to use. So Pat was showing the SLA example. you know, diligently setting up SLAs and attaching them to the individual jobs is a huge value proposition, because we often see that this is not done properly. And if that's not done properly, then everything may go well for years. And there's just this one incident that causes a huge amount of damage, millions of dollars of damage, for example, because you're violating a regulation for a financial institution, for example. So we've seen incredible examples over the years where organizations were entirely client-sided. So there's a lot of value to job scheduling from a lot of different perspectives.
Great. Thank you, Torsten and Pat, for that insight. Pat, there have been quite a few Skybot-specific questions, so let's jump back over to you. This question is, can jobs branch based on success or failure of SQL agent jobs?
Sure, absolutely. I didn't get into setting up those dependencies or prerequisites, but you can have, you can certainly branch based on a completion code, successful or failure, and go a different way. Yeah, absolutely. Your dependencies can be based on any of the status codes that a job gets, and then that can be determined by the exit code that command returns. So yes.
Thank you, Pat. Also, an audience member would like to know, is there a trial available, and is it realistic to deploy a pilot in a short period of time?
Definitely. There is a 30-day trial available on our website. You can download it. And we have customers all the time setting up a trial in a day. You can certainly get Skybot up and running in a matter of minutes. And then you can get a couple of example jobs set certainly within a day or two. Somebody just needs to know what the schedules are and what the dependencies are. That's the big thing. If somebody knows the schedule, then we can definitely get that going in just a couple days.
Excellent. Good to know. And let's take one final question, Pat. What kind of access can I offer business managers asking for performance data? We have a number of different reports. We do have a dashboard, and we have, I'm just trying to think as far as performance data. We have the history reports will give you that. We have what's called a good morning report that will send you the exceptions. Any of those job monitors that you have for your SLAs, we try to pull together in one report all of the different exceptions that are being caused by your job schedule. So, like I said, a dashboard and the good morning report is a quick good management tool.
Pat, I just changed to the dashboard as a small overview. If you want to talk to what those individual bars are for 1 second.
Oh, where? Oh, do you want me to bring it up?
Did it not change? Do I not have control? It might have just changed locally. Oh, yeah,
I bet it did.
Oh, really? So, oh, yeah, I'm not.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Sure, bring it up.
All right. Yeah. Well, I was just showing the dashboard because I had a screenshot on there.
Yeah, here's the dashboard.
Yeah.
So the dashboard is going to show you. You see the 99%. That's how many of the jobs are, how much of your Skybot jobs are automated, and so that number will climb as you increase the automation in your data center. Others on those graphs show the number of jobs run each day, the number of jobs in the last 16 hours. You can kind of see by shift where your busy times are and then not so busy. Also the reasons for errors. This one here, it will show you any of the completion codes and any errors that there are. This one down here shows you the number of those job monitors, late starts, overruns, etc. So it gives you a nice picture. Yes, pictures are always good for management to see the big picture. Again, over here, these are the number of objects that have changed. So we track those based from the records in our audit log. So
Thank you,
it's
Pat.
Another like a quick picture. Sure.
We are at the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. But I did want to thank the audience so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us today. I know that many of you had questions that weren't answered. I'm going to be sending those on to Pat so she can, or someone from the Skybot team can get you an answer. Thank you all again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.